Testing. Testing, testing. Hello, testing. There's only seven. There's only six people here. I don't even need a mic. Aperture, curtain lights. This is it. We'll hit the heights. And oh, what heights we'll hit. On with the talk. This is it. All right, I've been saving the best talks until Michael came. All right. Is this good? You can hear okay? All right. Mom, we waited till the Kavanaugh thing was over so you could, because I know you wouldn't have turned it off. Hey, you know, I know that it's the two sides. One is he's guilty, one he's not guilty, and there's an abortion issue, and there's all these other issues that we're rooting for. But we must remember this. He went to this Georgetown prep. Is that what it was called? And it was a Jesuit school. When Martin Luther nailed the 95 Theses on the door of the church there in Wittenberg, Germany, and broke away from the Catholic Church and started the Protestant Reformation, that was in 1517. In 1540, the Pope formed the Order of the Jesuits. And their main and sole purpose was to be like the undercover CIA, secret police, answering only to the Pope to destroy the Protestant Reformation. They were to infiltrate churches and cause dissension. And that's what they did. And they made vows to give their life to do that. And there are Jesuit schools today where people are being indoctrinated in this concept. So, the Pope that we have now, not that we don't have it, but the Pope that's now is a Jesuit. And you just got to remember that the Jesuits, they have an agenda. And it's not a good one. So, I mean, the guy looks good, and he may be good, but it's still, he's had the Jesuit indoctrination. And we just got to keep that in mind. Okay? Am I allowed to say that? Okay, you can start streaming now. Now, I don't care. All right. Now, this topic, I started putting this show together 3 or 4 years ago. And every year, I don't know if you noticed, I keep saying, all right, and we're also going to do the parallels between Joshua and Revelation. And then I never do it because I'm constantly adding new parallels that I find. And it's never really completed. And it probably never will be completed. So we're going to give you what we got. And it'll just end abruptly. Okay? Okay. So, let's first start. Deuteronomy 1. Yes, the book of Joshua. Oh. Well, it's time to put on makeup. It's time to light the lights. We're good. Okay. The book of Joshua and the book of Revelation parallel each other. Event after event after event, if you know what you're looking for. And it's so cool. You want to know what's going to happen in the end times? Look what happened in Joshua, and you'll see parallels. That's the premise of the talk. Okay? Have you heard any of this before? Oh, okay. So, let's just start in Deuteronomy. Let's introduce the first character here. The Lord was angry with me also on your account, saying, not even you shall enter there. This is where Moses, remember, he struck the rock the second time. But he's not going to get to go into the promised land. And then it says, Joshua, the son of Nun, who stands before you, he shall enter there. Encourage him, for he will cause Israel to inherit it. All right. This is not, I don't have a slide for this. This is in the Moses talk, but it is important why Moses couldn't go into the promised land. You know, they were out in the wilderness and they needed water, and God told Moses to strike the rock. No. That's what I'm saying, yeah. Strike the rock, and Moses struck the rock, and water came out, and they all drank. Then it's years later, and they need water, and God told Moses, gather them all together and speak to the rock. But Moses was angry with the people, and he took it out, and the second time, he struck the rock. Water came out, and they drank. But God was upset. And you think, that's it? That's the sin that he did? He struck the rock the first time because he was supposed to, and he struck the rock the second time, and he was only supposed to speak to the rock the second time. Well, here's the thing. God was setting up a picture. The rock is the Messiah. The rock is Jesus. And the rock, Jesus, Yeshua, is going to have two visits. On his first visit, Jesus is struck. On his second, because the first time he comes, he's going to be our sacrifice, right? He's going to take care of the sin problem. When he comes back the second time, he's going to be King of Kings and Lords of Lords, and you don't strike the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. You speak to him. So that was the picture God was setting up, and Moses messed it up by striking the rock the second time. It's kind of cool that, I mean, there's a whole bunch of predestination thoughts that you can go through your mind. You know, God was setting it up, and how could he let Moses screw it up? But because Moses screwed it up, you know, did God know Moses was going to screw it up and not get to go into the, you know, it's too much for my head to consider. But that was the reason, okay? And anyway, Joshua, the son of Nun, is the one who's going to take over for him. So we have a new leader up here, Joshua. And in Matthew, we were told, and you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the leaders of Judah, for out of you shall come forth a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. So we're going to know who that's going to be. This ruler is Yeshua. This ruler prophesied is Yeshua. You hear the same name? Joshua is Yeshua. Okay. Next. And he's the son of Nun, or Nun. How do we say it? Nun, I think, maybe. Nun? Okay. And Nun, remember, its picture is a fish. Okay? And the fish's tail is always moving. The fish has life. And Nun represents life. And you see, its ancient picture is a sperm, right? Or a fish. And that's how we get the letter N. The letter N is the fish's tail going up, down, up. That's where you get the N. Next. Here's an early mention of him. Moses sent them from the wilderness at the command of the Lord, and all the men who were heads of Israel, and these are their names. From Judah, it was Caleb. We know Caleb. We've heard of him before. By the way, Caleb, anyone know what Caleb means? Dog, right? In Hebrew, it's Kalev. It's two words. Kal means all. Lev means heart. It's kind of cool that a dog is all heart. If you ever get to know a dog, it's, you know, it's like Adam got to know these animals before he named them. And he named them accordingly. But from the tribe of Ephraim was Hoshea, Joshua, Ben Nun. Ben is son of Nun. Okay? So he's going to be one of the that Moses picks. These are the names of the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land. Okay? Next. These are the names of Moses sent to spy out the land. So there's his name in the Hebrew. Next. Up here in the book of Nehemiah, it says the entire assembly of those who had returned from captivity made booths and lived in them. Must be Sukkot. The sons of Israel had indeed not done so from the days of Joshua the son of Nun to that day, and there was great rejoicing. So they had kept Sukkot for a while. That's what they're explaining. They hadn't done it since the days of Joshua. And look how they spelled Joshua in this verse. Yud, Shin, Vav, Ayin. It's the same spelling as Yeshua. There's only one time that they spelled Joshua's name this way, but they did spell Joshua's name the same way as Yeshua. So, just so you know, these are parallels, right? We're looking for parallels between Joshua and Revelation. Next. So normally you'll see Joshua spelled this way, Yehoshua. And who was Joshua? We're going to call him Joshua, just so this is going to get confusing if I call them both Yeshua, right? So we'll have a Joshua and we'll have Yeshua, Jesus. Who is Joshua? Well, he's a military commander dispossessing the usurpers of the land. Who is Yeshua? He's a military commander who dispossessing the usurpers of the earth. In the book of Revelation. Yes? So there's our first parallel, maybe. Remember, the names are the same. That's parallel. Next. And the word Yehoshua, which contracts down to Joshua, is the word Yasha is the word for saves, and you put Yahweh in front, and you smush them together, and it's Yahweh saves. That's what Joshua means. Okay? Next. This is a weird number. Hello? Stacy from Dealer Processing wants to know if I want to renew my whatever. Idiots. Okay. From the tribe of Ephraim, Joshua the son of Nun, just been mentioning them again. We kind of already read this one. Next. Joshua's from Ephraim, and Ephraim, look at this word Ephraim. You see there's an aleph in the front, then you have a pei, resh, yud. You see those three middle letters? In Hebrew, pei, resh, yud. Pei is the P sound. It can also be an F sound, can it? P and F. And then there's an R, and then there's a yud. So that pei, resh, yud, that's the word for fruit in Hebrew. We get the word fruit because it's pei, which is F also, R, I, and we stick a U and a T on it, but it's the same core letters in Hebrew, P-R-I or F-R-I, fruit. You hear where it comes from, okay? So Ephraim, anytime you hear Ephraim, Ephrata, think fruit or fruitfulness. Mm-hmm. Okay, and you see it in Micah 5 too. You Bethlehem Ephratah. There's that fruitfulness. Okay, something fruitful is coming from it. Next. She will bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. I don't like the English in this because they tell him, you will name him Jesus because he will save the people from their sins. The word Jesus has nothing to do with saving people from sins. If you take it to the Hebrew, you will call his name Yeshua. Now you've got that Yasha in there, which is salvation. Now it makes sense, right? So his name isn't Jesus. It's Jesus and saving is not connected. You understand? Like you shall call his name Nick because he will cut his face shaving. That makes sense. But Jesus and saving people don't make sense. This is Boomba. I can go back to that if you'd rather. Next. Oh, lots of reading. My goodness. This hurts my neck to turn around and read all this. Now it came about after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, that the Lord spoke to Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' servant, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, cross this Jordan, you and all the people, to the land I am giving you, to the sons of Israel. Every place on which the sole of your foot treads, I have given it to you, just as I spoke to Moses. From the wilderness and this Lebanon, even as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and as far as the great sea, toward the setting of the sun will be your territory. Wow, that's a lot of land. I'm going to show you how much land that is. Next, I hope I have the calendars map as soon. Okay, well that's what we just read. Next. This is the promised land today, Israel. You see that tiny little blue part? That's what they have. Now, show them what God promised. Next. From the river Euphrates, that's going to be way over here, is the Euphrates, to the land of Egypt up in the north. It's a much bigger area than what they have today. Yeah. It's much bigger than what they have. All right. Next. Okay, now in Joshua, God is talking, and there's going to be something here to notice that God is really trying to point out here. He says, no man will be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I have been with Moses, I will be with you. I will not fail you or forsake you. Be strong and courageous. For you shall give this people possession of the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and courageous. Be careful to do all according to the law which Moses my servant commanded. Do not turn from it to the right or the left, that you may have success wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, then you will have success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Oh my goodness. You know what this means? I'm thinking it means 3 times. But they say this means white supremacy. Have you seen that on the news? I mean, everything that's good and decent and pure, the left, they have to pollute it. Do not tremble or be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So 3 times he's telling them, be strong and courageous. I still didn't know I was looking. Okay, next. Then Joshua commanded the officers of the people, saying, pass through the midst of the camp and command the people, saying, Prepare provisions for yourselves, for within 3 days you are to cross this Jordan to go in and possess the land which the Lord your God is giving to you to possess it. All right? Next. And now, to the Reubenites and to the Gadites and to the half-tribe of Manasseh, Joshua said, remember the word which Moses his servant commanded you, saying, the Lord your God gives you rest and will give you this land. So he's picked out 3 tribes here. The Reubenites, the Gadites, and half-tribe of Manasseh. You know what those 3 have in common? Excellent. Yes. Yes. Here's the promised land. This stick is the Jordan River. They are all camped over here. They're going to cross over into Israel. But these 3 tribes were on this side, and that's their possession. So they were already on this. They're not going to be crossing over. Got it? They're already on their side. Next. Your wives, he's talking to those 3 tribes. Your wives, little ones, and your cattle shall remain in the land which Moses gave you beyond the Jordan. But you shall cross before your brothers in battle array, all your valiant warriors, and shall help them. So all the other tribes have to cross the Jordan and take the promised land. Well, you guys have to come help. Yeah, you got to come fight with us. Your families and cattle and kids and wives can stay, but you got to come with us until the Lord gives your brothers rest, as he gives you. And they also possess the land which the Lord God is giving them. Then you shall return to your own land and possess that which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you beyond the Jordan toward the sunrise. You see what's happening here? All right, next. They answered Joshua and said, all that you have commanded we will do, and wherever you send us we will go. And just as we obeyed Moses in all things, so we will obey you. Only may the Lord your God be with you as he was with Moses. Anyone who rebels against your command and does not obey your words and all that you command him shall be put to death. Only be strong and courageous. So he's really stressing that. Okay, next. Oh my goodness, more. Okay, chapter 2. Then Joshua, by the way, this talk has a slow start, but it builds and it gets good at the end. It gets, yes, stay with me. After about 1/4 of the way in, it really takes off. Like an hour from now, people are going to, are we at a 4th yet? Okay, then Joshua, son of Nun, sent 2 men as spies, saying, go view the land, especially Jericho. So they went and came into the house of a harlot whose name was Rahab, and lodged there. The men said to her, we shall be free from this oath to you, which you have made us swear, unless when we come into the land you tie this cord of scarlet thread in the window, through which you let us down, and gather to yourself into your house your father, your mother, your brother, and all your father's household. She said, according to your word, so be it. And she sent them away, they departed, and she tied a scarlet cord. Remember, they went in to spy. She hid them, the harlot hid them under the flax, and they made a deal with her. You hang a scarlet cord. When we attack this city, anybody who's in your apartment will be saved. Okay, so we have a scarlet cord playing here. Next. Okay, we already read the first one. Joshua, go to the harlot's house and bring the woman. So he's letting them know to save that woman, right? But the point is that Joshua sends in 2 unnamed spies. Next. And in Revelation 11:3, we have, and I will grant authority to my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. We have Jesus, Yeshua, sending in two spies or two witnesses. You see the parallel? Okay, there's one of them. And they're in there for 1,260 days, which is 3.5 years, or it's 42 months, which is Revelation 11, or it's, Daniel calls it time, times, and half the time. That's 3.5 years. A time is a year. Or it's half of the 70th Shabuah in Revelation. Okay. Next. And by the way, those two witnesses that Yeshua, Jesus, is sending in, we know who they are? Who are the two witnesses going to show up in Jerusalem? Elijah is one, right? Because the last two verses of the Old Testament says, I will send Elijah before the great and terrible day of the Lord. So Elijah, absolutely for sure, he's one. And then there's always this debate about the second one. A lot of people say it's Enoch because it's appointed everyone wants to die, and Elijah never died, and Enoch never died, and Elijah's a Jew, and Enoch's a Gentile, and he's going to send one of each. I don't know why he would be sending a Gentile, first of all. He's not. So I don't think it's going to be Enoch. And just because it says you're appointed once to die, Lazarus died twice. And Moses was at the Transfiguration with Elijah. Here's how you know for sure that it's Moses. I'm going to promise you it's, ready? Because when Moses was up there at the burning bush, and God speaks first and says, take your shoes off, you're on holy ground. I've heard your plea, and we're going to help you. And Moses says, this is the first thing out of Moses' mouth. Okay, well, what did he say first? Like, why me? Why are you, how am I going to do this? Something to this effect, I'm paraphrasing. And God says, don't worry, I will go with you. Now, this is the second thing out of Moses' mouth in front of the burning bush. God Almighty, he says to God, well, when I go down there, or he didn't say when I go down there, he said, they're going to ask me, what is your name? And then he said, you tell them, I am that I am. You tell them Yahweh of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. So Moses goes down, and guess what? They never asked. You can read the whole Torah. They never asked him what was his name. And I don't think that God's going to let that line just be a throwaway line. If it's the second thing you're saying to God Almighty, it's got to be prophetic. And when he's a witness in Jerusalem, they're going to ask, you're Moses? What is his name? Is Will here? Oh. Don't listen to her, listen to me. But I think that's the strongest evidence I've heard. Opinionated. Okay. And this talks about here, look, also, he's talking about those two witnesses. They're the two olive trees who stand before the Lord, the two lampstands. Anyone tries to harm them, fire comes out of their mouth and devours. They have the power to shut up the sky so rain will not fall during their days of prophesying. Well, that's Elijah's big trick, right? Stopping the rain. And they have the power over the waters to turn them into blood and to strike the earth with every plague. Well, that's Moses' big trick. So it's pointing to Elijah and Moses. Next. Okay, the men said to her, we will be free from this oath to which you have made us swear, unless when we come back, you tie this cord of scarlet. Those are two big important words I want you to note in this verse. Thread the window through which you let us down, and gather yourself, your father, mother, brother, and household. Shani is the word for scarlet. All right. Next. She said, according to your word, so be it. So she sent them away, and they departed, and she tied a scarlet cord in the window. The word for cord in Hebrew is tikva. And it's a tav, kuf, vav, hey, tikva. Good. Next. The word tikva means cord, but the word tikva also means hope. Now, that's kind of cool. I don't know if you know this, but the Olympics, whenever an Israeli, you probably never heard the national anthem of Israel. yeah, you probably, but I'm saying you probably never heard it at the Olympics. It's rare that a Jew comes in first. But the national anthem of Israel is Hatikva. Ha in front of a word is the hope. Okay? Okay, next. And here it is. It's very small. You can't read it there. Maybe we'll get a bigger picture. Next. Hatikva. There it is. All right. We'll see this in a minute here on the next one. Or two later. Go ahead. Next. Here it is. As long as in the heart within a Jewish soul still yearns, and onward toward the ends of the east, and the eye still gazes toward Zion. Okay? That's the first verse. All right, next. Okay, so it was a scarlet cord. So where does a scarlet, how's that going to tie in? Okay? Because scarlet cords run the whole way through the Bible. I remember when Tamar, remember Judah and Tamar, and she's pregnant with twins, and the first twin comes out, and they tie a red thing around it, and that kid's name was Zerah. And then that kid pulls his arm back in, and then Perez comes out, right? The second twin. And then Zerah comes out after that. Okay. You know, there's something very prophetic in that picture. You know what that... you're going to get goosebumps on this one. You'll love it. Here's my target. I'm going to make sure she gets something. No, but... When Zerah represents the Jews, Israel. Zerah comes out. They are given the covenant of circumcision. They get the red cord around their... But what do the Jews do when the Messiah shows up? They pull back. The second son's name is Perez. You know what Perez means in Hebrew? It means to burst forth. And so whenever the Jews pulled back, the Gentiles, that's Perez, boom, they come bursting forth. And we then carried the whole Messianic or the Christianity or Yeshua, good news, gospel. And eventually, Zerah does get born. So the Jews will come around eventually. But that's a prophetic picture of those two boys, those twins being born. How one came out, pulled back, the other one burst forth. And the other one was ultimately born. So I'm not going to read all that, but that's the story there of that. Next. Here's the whole kind of the Messiah's lineage, right? And Messiah's lineage, you notice, it's not squeaky clean. And not at all. You have Lot, who sleeps with his daughter, because she tricks him and gets him drunk, right? Sleeps with both daughters. And the first daughter has a son, and she names him Moab. And Moab What's Abba? Father. And you put a Mo in front of it. Moab means from father. That's what she named her kid, from daddy. That's what Moab means. So there's some incense on this side. And then you have Judah and Tamar, where that whole, she dresses like a prostitute and tricks him. And they have Zerach and Perez. Zerach's the Jews, Perez the Gentiles. Through the Gentiles, they have Salmon, who marries Rahab the prostitute. And they have Boaz, and this is Ruth and Boaz get together, have Obed, Jesse, David, Messiah. So not at all squeaky clean. And you have Jew and Gentile bringing this together. I've heard that, yes. Yeah. Salmon might be one of the two spies that were sent in. Yeah. But I haven't found anything to prove it. But it's... Okay, next. And then when you have the red heifer in the future, there's a special... Okay. For the third temple, it was for purification of anything. You need a red heifer. But you had the priest would take cedar wood, hyssop, and scarlet material, and cast them in the midst of the red heifer. And then you would take the ashes from this red heifer burning, and you'd mix it with water, and then you sprinkle this onto something, and it would purify it. It's a totally a spiritual purification, right? But God requires it. And all of these things, hyssop is what they used to dip this. They took a sponge and put it on hyssop, and they put it in vinegar and put it up to Jesus. Okay, and he's on a cross, and it's a cross made out of cedar, thinking it would be. Okay, and how does the scarlet material tie into the crucifixion? I forget. Maybe it's blood. Yeah, but all these things point to Yeshua, Jesus. Okay. Because he's that. And by the way, the red heifer, that was a sacrifice that was done outside the camp. Okay, next. Let's go to the next one. Next. And next. Next. This is just showing examples of scarlet bread. Okay. Here, Joshua 4:4. It says, Joshua called the 12 men whom he had appointed from the sons of Israel, one man from each tribe. So you have Joshua picking 12 men. And in Mark 3:16, it says, and he appointed 12. Simon, who's Peter, James, okay, Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, Thaddeus, Simon, and Judas, who betrayed him. So each of them picked 12. You see, you're seeing parallels, Joshua and Yeshua. Next. Okay, Joshua 4. Thus the sons of Israel did as Joshua commanded, and took up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, just as the Lord spoke to Joshua, according to the number of tribes of the sons of Israel, and they carried them over with them to the lodging place and put them down there. Then Joshua set up 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan. Remember, when they were about to enter the promised land, what happened? The Jordan stopped flowing. And they went across with the ark and the priests and then all the people, and they crossed the dry Jordan riverbed. And as a memorial, Joshua set up 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan, at the place where the feet of the priests who were carrying the ark of the covenant were standing. And they are there to this day. Keep that in mind, that there are 12 stones somewhere in the Jordan River today, and they're there to this day. So Joshua set 12 stones within a river. Next. Remember when in Matthew 3, when John the Baptist saw the Pharisees and Sadducees coming for baptism, he said to them, "You brood of vipers, Who warned you to flee from the wrath to come? Therefore, bear fruit in keeping with repentance. And do not suppose that you can say to yourselves, we have Abraham for our father. For I say to you that from these stones God is able to raise up children to Abraham. From what stones? John the Baptist is down in the Jordan River, and here come the hypocrites, and he's going, you hypocrites, you think because you have Abraham as your father, you're so hooty-dooty, whatever? Well, from these stones he could raise up. He's talking about those 12 stones. I think those are the stones he's talking about. Make sense? All right, next. And in Revelation 21, when you have the New Jerusalem, it says, and he carried me away in spirit, this is John the Revelator, to a great and high mountain, and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. Having the glory of God, her brilliance was like a costly stone. Okay, it had a great and high wall with 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and the names were written on them, which were the names of the 12 tribes. There were 3 gates on the east, 3 on the north, 3 south, 3 west. This is New Jerusalem, right? Next. And the wall of the city had 12 foundation stones, and on them were the 12 names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. And the city is laid out square, 1,500 miles length, width, and breadth. The foundation stones were adored with every precious stone, and here's all the different stones that are there. Next. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. So here you have Joshua sets up 12 stones in a river. Jesus is going to set up a river within 12 stones. Am I stretching? No. And notice that one of them is, they're backwards of each other, aren't they? But they would be, because if you're standing here, if you're looking back at Joshua, you're seeing one thing. If you're looking forward, you're seeing the opposite, right? That's how prophecy works. If this one's backwards, this one's forward. Okay, parallel, Joshua, Revelation. Next. And the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th of the first month and camped at Gilgal on the east edge of the Jordan. So you have Joshua enters the land on Nisan 10. Okay. And as we talked about, when was it, Sunday night? This was with Isaac's birthday. This was the day Isaac was born. This was the day that the Jews were circumcised. This was the day you brought the Passover lamb into the house. And this is also the day, next. Therefore, Jesus, 6 days before Passover, came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, whom Jesus raised from the dead. Next. And on the next day, large crowds came to the feast. They heard Jesus was coming, and he took branches of palm trees. For now, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, even the King of Israel. Jesus found a donkey. The point is, Jesus enters Jerusalem on Nisan 10. Okay? All these same days. Next. And the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th of the first month and camped at Gilgal on the eastern edge. Remember, here's the Jordan River. They're all camped over here, and they're going to go into the promised land. They're going from east to west. Remember where they were? They were over here in Egypt. How strange, if you're way over here in Egypt, and you're trying to get here to Israel, that you would enter this way. But they did. They wandered, and then they here, and they're going to enter east to west. Anyone thinking of a parallel here? Next. But just as lightning comes from east and flashes to the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. He's coming east to west. Next. Oh, lots of writing. Okay. Now it came about when Joshua was by Jericho, he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man standing opposite him with his sword drawn in his hand. Joshua went to him and said to him, "Are you for us or our adversaries?" He said, "No, rather I indeed come now as captain of the host of the Lord." And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and bowed down and said to him, "What is my Lord to say to his servant?" The captain of the Lord's host said, you know who this captain of the Lord's host is, by the way? Who is this captain of the Lord's host? It's Jesus. It's Yeshua. And here's how we know this verse. The captain of the Lord's host said to Yeshua, "Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place you are standing on is holy." And Jesus did so. That's how it's the only time, only when God is present, you take your shoes off. Okay? So, we have Joshua falling on his face in front of Yeshua on the ground. Next. In Revelation, John the Revelator says, "When I saw him, I fell at his feet like a dead man." So another parallel, Joshua and Revelation with Jesus, okay? Do not be afraid, I am the first and the last, the Aleph and the Tav. Okay, next. Now Jericho was tightly shut because of the sons of Israel. No one went out and no one came in. The Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have given Jericho into your hand, with its kings and the valiant warriors. You shall march around the city, all the men of war circling the city once. You shall do it for 6 days." Keep that in mind. Every day you go once. All 7 priests shall carry 7 trumpets and ram's horns before the ark. Then on the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests will blow the 7 trumpets. Okay? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and on the 7th day, 7. All right? Next. By the way, this marching around, Jericho is a picture of the world. Okay? And circling Jericho, we are to be like circling Jericho. Because we are the saints, and we are supposed to be proclaiming the Great Commission as we march around the world. Next. And this is the Great Commission here, right? You will receive power from the Holy Spirit has come upon you. You shall be my witness both in Jerusalem, in all Judea and Samaria, and even the remotest parts of the earth. So, look what Joshua had happened. On day 1, a trumpet. Day 2, a trumpet. 3, 4, 5, 6. And on the 7th day, 7 trumpets. Does this ring a bell? Next. Because in the book of Revelation, you're going to have a seal, and 2 seals, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the 7th seal is going to yield 7 trumpets. There's a parallel. See it? You know how long that took that slide to make? Probably a day and a half just to get the spacing right. And so I want you to just soak it in, ooh and ah, if you feel free. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what I was going for. Next. Then God's temple in heaven was open, and within his temple was seen the Ark of the Covenant. All right, I don't know what this is here for. Next. Don't laugh at me. Or you're laughing with me. Okay. That's all right. Revelation 5. It says, "I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written inside and on the back, sealed up with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming in a loud voice, 'Who is worthy to open the book and to break its seals?'" Okay, you know what this document he's holding is? This is the marriage ketubah between man and Jesus. Okay? Now, what is a ketubah? What is this is the document the Jews have to write, a contract, a marriage contract. And when I first learned about ketubahs years ago, I was wondering, okay, well, they have these ketubah things. I wonder if Jews still even do them. Oh, my goodness, yes. I asked my friend years ago, I said, do you still do a ketubah? Well, yes. Some of those, like, you idiot, you can't get married without one. You know, it's still a thing. Yeah, they hang them, frame them. Yep. Next, I'm going to give you a little hint or a little lesson on ketubah. We did this years ago in my Revelation talk, but it's always worth hearing again because it's cool. The ketubah has 5 parts to it. The first part gives the combined family history, family tree. The second part gives the bride's family and her history. The third part gives the groom's family tree and history. The fourth part is how the bride and groom met. And the fifth part is the responsibilities of the groom and the bride and their families. Got it? Now, there is a hugely famous ketubah in the Bible. Next, please. Take that back. It's the next slide. But I want to show you this first. Then, once all that is agreed, those 5 parts are agreed, you have to get 7 people to sign the ketubah to make it official. The groom signs and the groom's father. The bride signs and the bride's father. You have to have a rabbi or a scribe, and you have to have 2 witnesses. So 7 signatures have to be on the ketubah. Okay, now, next. Well, you know the Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible, right? We say Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. The Jews say Bereshit, Shemot, Vayikra, Bamidbar, Devarim. Bereshit means in the beginning. Remember, the Jews name the first 5 books by what is the first unique word in that book. Bereshit means in beginning. Shemot means, well, if you open up the second book of the Bible, it says these are the names of, these are the names. Shem is the word for name. It's a feminine word, so you put oat on the end for plural. Shemot. Okay? These are the names. It's funny. I had a Jewish friend, and I asked him, well, look what it says in Exodus 12. And they look at me like, what? I went, Exodus. Haven't you seen the movie Exodus? Yeah, but we did, but what does that have to do with anything? You know? It's Shemot. They don't know the word Exodus. That's odd, isn't it? So I've connected a lot better with them now that I name their books according to their names, because we can get by things faster. Leviticus, Vayikra, is and the Lord called. The Lord called out. That's what Vayikra means. But Midbar is the word for wilderness. You put a ba in front of it, it's in the wilderness. Bamidbar. And Devarim, the word Debar means word. And if you put I am on the end, Devarim, it's these are his words. These are the words that, okay? So those are the 5 books. We say Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. It's just 5 words. Okay, next. Oh, here they are. That's the meanings of all 5. And it's funny whenever, if a Jew were here and I said to a Jew, hey, Bereshit, Shemot, Vayikra, Bamidbar, Devarim. You know what they would hear? Next. In the beginning, these are the names the Lord called out in the wilderness, and these are his words. So he's got a message hidden in the first word of every, you know. Okay, next. Now, you know what Genesis is? Genesis is the combined family history. We get introduced to God, and then we have Adam, we have man and God, right? It's the history of how it all got started. And what is Shemot? Shemot is the bride's history. We learned all about the Jews, and they're in Egypt, and they're right, and they're enslaved, and it's a bad life, and okay. And then you come to Leviticus, and you get all these laws of the priests, and you're getting the Levitical picture. You're getting the groom. Yeshua is our high priest. You're getting his family history on that side, Leviticus. And then they get together and they wander in the wilderness, and they meet, and they're together for 40 years, and that's how they meet in Bamidbar. And then in Deuteronomy, he repeats all the words again, the law again, and he's giving all the responsibilities and all of what you need to do. And he says, I will be your God, and you will be my people. You know, and choose life, and do this, and don't do that. And if you, right, he's given all the responsibilities. So the Torah is the ketubah. It's the ketubah between God and man. To the Jews, they don't know. No. The only two Jews that I know who get that would be Will and his daughter. You're Jewish? Okay, there's three now. Okay. Does that make sense, Will? Am I putting words in your mouth? Good. Okay, there's the ketubah. Next. And then you need 7 signatures on a ketubah. Okay? Well, you need Adam. You need first of all, you need a witness. Okay? And the first witness, well, who's the first witness? I mean, you can't get any first than Adam. I think Adam would have signed the ketubah. Okay? Then you need another witness, and I think Noah, and I have deeper reasons why all these. If you watch that Revelation talk, it explains why they're colored the way they are. We don't have time. That's a 4-hour talk. But it's a good one. It's on YouTube. Revelation 2 and 3. Look it up. Noah would be a second witness. Okay. Abraham would be the father of the groom. Yes? Jacob is the bride. David is the groom? No. The son of David. So David's the father of the groom. Abraham's the father of the bride. Moses is the rabbi, the scribe. Jesus is the groom. Right? So there are your 7 signatures. You have 2 witnesses, you have a scribe, you have the bride, Jacob. Yeah. Okay. Next. And so it says, I saw in his right hand, who sat on the throne, a scroll written on it. Look at that. This scroll that he's holding in his hand is written on the inside and on the back, and it's signed with 7 seals. Okay? And who's worthy to pop these seals and read it? Because you have to read the ketubah at the wedding. And that's what Revelation 5 is. We're at the wedding. Okay? Next. Look at this. When Moses turned and went down from the mountain with the 2 tablets of testimony in his hand, tablets were what? Tablets were written on both sides. They were written on one side and the other. This is the ketubah he's carrying down. Written on both sides. Okay, next. And by the way, this is just a little throw in here. I'm going to give you this for free. What happens if the bride is not faithful? And remember, we just saw that one before where it had the different cups. Can we go back and I can just explain them for something real quick? Maybe back to. Okay, Okay, right there. You know, there's the 4 cups that you drink at Passover. And there's also 4 cups you drink when you're doing this whole ketubah thing. When the groom and his father come over to the bride's house, and they all drink a cup. There's cup number 1. It's called the cup of sanctification. And what you're doing, we talked about this the other night, it's the blood covenant. You're making a covenant with this family, and then your families are going to become friends. Okay, that's cup number 1. Then you talk and you negotiate a little bit, and you write a little bit, and then you drink the second cup. And the second cup is the cup of dedication. And now that's the salt covenant. And now you agree that our 2 families are friends. Remember the salt? He puts some salt in, he puts some salt in, and they get mixed together. Then you negotiate some more and write the ketubah, and then you drink the third cup, and this is the cup of betrothal, I think, inheritance. Okay. I think it's also called betrothal too. Now you are heirs to one another. Even if you're not married, you are officially married, but you're not. You didn't have the ceremony. You don't drink the 4th cup until you actually get to the wedding, which may be months or a year away. The groom goes off and prepares a place. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? I go and prepare a place for you. And then he comes back and swoops her up and carries her off. And then they drink the 4th cup at the actual wedding. But once they drink the 3rd cup, they're married. And if she is unfaithful while he's off preparing a place, what happens? Now we jump ahead and okay. If while he's off preparing a place, she cheats on him, he can let her pay the price. Well, you know what the price is? That's called adultery. And what is the price? She gets stoned to death. Let's hope there's a possibility number 2. He could divorce her. So he can sign a writ of divorce, and all of our ketubah negotiations done, and she gets nothing. Okay? But then she's a divorced woman, and no one wants to marry a divorced woman. So that's not good either for her. Number 3, he could pretend that the child is his, because that's obviously something. I mean, how do we know she's cheating? Because she's got something in the oven. And so he could pretend the child is his. Well, where have we seen this one? Joseph and Mary, right? Joseph could have had her stoned, or he could have divorced her, but he just pretended the child was his. And there is a 4th possibility. The 4th one is he could choose to be her goel. A goel is a kinsman redeemer. This is what Boaz did for Ruth. Okay? This is what Yeshua, Jesus, does for us. He becomes our kinsman redeemer. He pays all of our debts. Boaz paid all the debts of Naomi and Elimelech. And he got Ruth in the deal. Okay, next. We've kind of digressed a bit from this, but from the topic. But I think it's all important, fun stuff, isn't it? They sang a new song. You were worthy to break the seals. You were slain, purchased for God with your blood. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, back to Joshua. Oh, this is nice. This is what God's telling Joshua is going to happen. It hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen. It shall be that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, ba-ba, and you hear the sound of the trumpet, the people shall shout with a great shout. The wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people will go up every man straight ahead. Okay, so there's a bunch of things happening, right? Now, next. Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said to them, take up the ark of the covenant. Let the 7 priests carry the 7 trumpets of ram's horn before the ark of the Lord. In Revelation we have, I saw 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them. 7 trumpets, 7 trumpets. And 7 angels had 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound them. So we got a parallel there. Next. Are we next? Is that it? Okay. Joshua commanded the people, saying, you shall not shout, nor let your voice be heard, nor let a word proceed out of your mouth until the day I tell you shout. Then you will shout. At the 7th time, when the priest blew the trumpet, Joshua said to the people, shout, for the Lord has given you the city. So there's going to be a period in Joshua's time where lips are sealed, no noise. Look in Revelation. When the Lamb broke the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. So both in Joshua and in Revelation, you had this period of silence. Parallel. Next. Okay. Now Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priest took up the ark of the Lord. Notice what was the ark of the Lord, right? That's the first thing mentioned. So the people shouted, and the priest blew the trumpets, and when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, the people shouted a great shout, and the wall fell down flat. So that the people went up into the city, every man straight ahead, and they took the city. You see the order that took place? There was the ark, and then there was a shout, and then there was trumpets, and then the city fell. Good? That's in the book of Joshua. Next, please. Here's the book of Revelation. Revelation says, at the very hour there was a severe earthquake, and a tenth of the city collapsed. 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and survivors were terrified and gave glory to God of heaven. Second woe was past, third woe was coming. Seventh angel sounded his trumpets, and there were loud voices in heaven, which said, the kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Messiah, and he will reign forever and ever. Then God's temple in heaven was opened, within his ark was seen the ark of the covenant. You see, the very 4 things that happened in Joshua are now happening in Revelation in reverse order, because one is past and one is future. But they're all in the same little section of verses. Isn't that cool? And remember, this talk that I'm doing here, these are just ones that I've gleaned along the way. There could be, I'm sure, hundreds and hundreds of parallels, right? I'm just showing you ones that I'm finding and trying to stick them in the show at the right time. Next. Okay. Then God's temple in heaven was open. Within his temple was seen the ark of his covenant. Okay. I think Jesus is revealed maybe here. Okay. And he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast. Oh my goodness. Okay. Who's the woman sitting on the scarlet beast? And you know. You said Hillary Clinton. Is she the woman or the beast? He carried me away in the spirit of the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast full of blasphemous names, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was clothed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a gold cup full of abominations and of the unclean things of her immorality. And on her forehead a name was written, a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, and of the abominations of the earth. Okay, who are we talking about here? Anyone afraid to say it? It's the Catholic Church. Thank you very much. Okay, not the United States. And here's how we know. Well, look what it talks about. That whoever this is, it sits on 7 hills, or okay, and Rome is the city of 7 hills. It says that she's adorned with scarlet and purple. You ever notice what there's the priests and the cardinals. Some of them are in purple, and the cardinals are in scarlet. Those are the 2 colors. And they're adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a cup, okay, full of the abominations of the unclean things. And was it talk about the blood of the saints, or is that later on? It must talk about that. Yeah, it's full of the blood of the saints. Okay, the Catholic Church, they have wiped out so many Christian groups over the years. Yes, immorality it talks about here, and you have the pedophile stuff. And it says Babylon the Great. It's, Babylon was maybe, how do I want to say all this? I did a talk on Antichrist once, and there's all these Antichrist characters in the Bible. One of the first ones, he's not the first one, but one of the early Antichrist characters was Nimrod in Babel. Okay, Babel became Babylon, right? So that's the seat of Antichrist, bad, evil. This one says, on her forehead was a name written, a mystery. So it's not Babylon the Great. That's a mystery. Who is Babylon the Great? Well, who was a later Antichrist evil group that, remember, Antichrist thing is to get rid of Jesus. And that's Rome. Out of Rome were the bad guys there, right? So Rome becomes this mystery Babylon. Okay? And it's actually going to morph back into the other Babylon at some point. Or it might morph into, in one way it's going to morph to Babylon. That's a different talk, and I can't get into that right now. But you have that, the EU, the European Union maybe, or it's the world government. Yeah, the world order. And it talks about that there's going to be a headquarters for that back in Babylon. So it was in Babylon, it went to Rome, Rome took it worldwide, and then it'll morph back into Babylon. And you have these good and evils. Israel, good, and Babylon, the evil. And these two are battling, okay? Antichrist is over one of them. The mother of harlots, and by the way, Antichrist or Satan, he's going to use the Catholic Church because it talks about it sits on many waters. Waters is a picture of nations. Anytime the Bible talks about the land is Israel. The waters are the nations. So it talks about that this woman sitting on the beast sits on many waters. And I've been all over the world. And there are Catholic churches all over the world. Okay? So that would fit nicely into this. Plus you have the scarlet and the purple. Plus you have all the precious stones and the jewels and the encrusted chalices and okay? And have you ever seen, I should have pictures of this. You know what the what do you call it? In America, the emblem of America is the eagle, right? You know what the emblem is of the EU? I want you to Google that tonight. The EU, they have statues in front of every EU building, and they're all a little bit different. I'll try to get some pictures of them and bring them tomorrow. Maybe you can find it. EU. It's a woman riding a beast. It's a big bull. And some of them are very ultra-modern, and some of them are very made of wood, and some of them are very shiny, and some of them are glass. And they have all, but it's always a woman, and she's always riding a bull. That's the EU's, not motto, their emblem. It's on the back of the euro. It's on the money. That's their thing. I mean, it's the revived Roman Empire. And the revived Roman Empire is political, but they're going to have a religious side. Remember, the Antichrist is a political leader. The false prophet is a religious leader. And the false prophet, I believe, will come from this. Well, the Antichrist is going to use this woman on the beast. He's going to use her, like in a bad way. You use her for your benefit, and then at some point, throw her away. Because he's going to rise in power, and she's going to be, the Pope or whoever's the head of this Catholic Church at the time, is going to be saying, oh, hey, listen, I'm a religious leader. I'm the Pope. Listen to me. That man there, he's God. And once he gets that blessing, well, now he don't need you anymore, and he will discard her. Okay? And she is the mother of all harlots. She'll just sleep with anybody, including Satan, who is the Antichrist. You see how it all fits? Or is it all conspiracy theory? I call for an FBI investigation. Next. Okay. Okay. So the men of Israel took some of their provisions and did not ask for the counsel of the Lord. And Joshua made peace with them and made a covenant with them to let them live, and the leaders of the congregation swore an oath to them. Okay, what's happened here is, when they actually entered the promised land, there was one group who came, and didn't they disguise themselves as, like, oh, we've come a long way, please make peace with us. Well, they were the locals, and once they made the deal, Israel didn't squelch on the deal and said, okay, yes. All right. Now, the other neighbors who didn't make a deal were upset with these people who made the deal with Israel. And Israel, God bless them, they kept the deal with even though it was made under trickery. Okay? I don't know why Isaiah 9:6 is in there, but go to the next one. Okay. Now, it came about that when Adonai-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had captured Ai and had utterly destroyed it, just as he done to Jericho and its king, so had he done to Ai and its king, that the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were within their land. Gibeon, the people of Gibeon are the ones who made this peace with Israel, okay, and pretended like they were from far away and we want to make peace. That he greatly feared, because Gibeon was a great city, like one of the royal cities, and because it was greater than Ai, and all its men were mighty. By the way, this guy here, Adonai-Zedek. Adonai-Zedek. Adonai means Lord, right? And Zedek is righteousness. You hear, that's one of God's names. Yahweh Sidkenu. Yahweh Sidkenu. It's Sadiq, Zadok. Any word like that, you hear Zadok Jewelers at the mall. We still have malls. But you understand, that Zadok, that all means righteous. So you have a bad king called Adonai Zadok in the book of Joshua. The Lord of righteousness. That's what an odd name for a bad king, right? And in the book of Revelation, you're going to have Antichrist, who's a bad guy, who everyone's going to think is God. Both in Joshua and Revelation, you have bad characters relabeled or renamed. Okay, here you got a bad guy named Adonai Zadok. The Lord of righteousness sounds like a good guy, but he's an evil king, right? Okay, next. Therefore, Adonai Zadok. Oh, this is a little bit complicated here, but you have Adonai Zadok, the king of Jerusalem. He sent word to this guy, king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon. So you have one king sending word to four kings. I don't want you to get all confused with the names and go, I don't understand it. Just the point, right? There's one king writes to four kings, and he says, come up to me and help me, and let us attack Gibeon. Gibeon's that group who made peace with Israel. For it has made peace with Joshua and with the sons of Israel. So the five kings, which is Adonai, Zadok, and the other four, gathered together and went up, and they all, with their armies, and they camped by Gibeon and fought against it. So in Joshua, you have, if you make peace with Israel, you're going to face consequences. Right? That's the point of all this. Next. Now, this is back in, what, 1970? I can't even read that. 1979, maybe? Remember this? Egypt and Israel signed formal treaty ending a state of war after 30 years. Sadat and Begin praised Jimmy Carter's role. Okay? So you have Anwar Sadat, the president of Egypt, is making peace with Gibeon, with Begin, right? Next. And there, look at that. They're just, and next. And here, and then he was there at the big thing in Cairo where they're marching through and all the troops are marching by. Next. Oh, and then this is the actual picture. Yes. Gunmen come up to the stand where he was seated and shot him. Next. Sadat assassinated at an army parade. Men amid ranks fire into stands. Vice President affirms all treaties. Next. Israel stunned and anxious. Few Arab nations mourning. Few Arab nations are mourning that Sadat was killed. That's interesting, huh? Because if you make friends with Israel, just like Gibeon did, you got all the enemies coming against you. Next. And the Lord said to Joshua, how are we doing on time? Do you want to finish this up tomorrow? Are we... What? Huh? Are we good? He says we're only halfway. I told you, huh? Oh, wait, it's not true. There's a lot of blank ones. We're good? Okay. The Lord said to Joshua, do not fear, for I have given them into your hands. No one of them shall stand before you. Okay? Because they're all coming to attack Israel for making friends with Gibeon. Or they're going to attack Gibeon, right? As they fled from before Israel, while they were at the descent at Beth Horon, the Lord threw large stones from heaven on them, as far as this place, and they died. And there were more who died from the hailstones than those whom the sons of Israel killed with the sword. So those five kings who are attacking Gibeon are going to be pelted from heaven with hailstones. Or they were. That will hurt. All right? Next. And in Revelation chapter 16 it says, and huge hailstones, about 100 pounds each, came down from heaven upon men, and men blasphemed God because of the plague of the hail, because this plague was extremely severe. So in Joshua you have hailstones coming down and killing. In Revelation you have hailstones coming down and killing. See the parallels. And why are they sending the hailstones? What was the reason? In Revelation? Blasphemy. They were blaspheming God, right? Yes! Next slide, please. Leviticus says, bring the one who is cursed outside the camp, and let all who heard him lay their hands on his head, then let all the congregation stone him. That's the punishment for blasphemy. You blaspheme, you get stoned. In the book of Revelation, those left behind are going to be shaking their fists at God and blaspheming him, and he's going to throw 100-pound hailstones on them. Isn't that funny? God is so funny. You know, I'm putting together a talk. I'm putting together a talk on, maybe we'll do it. I didn't get it done for this year. Maybe it'll be next year when I do it. The humor of God. And I'm going to put this one in there because it's just very funny. You know my favorite one so far? I'm going to tell you my favorite one. Hold on, I got to think of my favorite one. There was a part in there, you know, Moses was married to Zipporah, right? But later he married a Cushite woman. You know where Cush is? Cush is below Egypt. Sudan, Ethiopia. They're black people. Moses marries a Cushite woman, and there's a verse in there where it says, Aaron and Miriam gave him grief for marrying the Cushite woman. So there's some racial thing that they didn't like him marrying a black woman. And a little bit later, Miriam gets leprosy and turns white. That's hilarious. But imagine a whole 2-hour talk on things like that. Okay. Next. Okay, then Joshua spoke to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the sons of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, O sun, stand still at Gibeon. O moon, in the valley of Ajalon. So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped until the nations avenged themselves of their enemies. Is it not written in the book of Jasher? The sun stopped in the middle of the sky, and it did not hasten to go down for about a whole day. There was no day, listen to this verse here. There was no day like that before it or after it when the Lord listened to the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel. Okay? That's a big thing you're going to need to see in a bit. The moon and the sun stopped, and the Lord fought for Israel. Next. It says here in Zechariah, this is a future event. I will gather all the nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the cities shall be taken, the houses are rifled, the women ravished, and half the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Okay, this is going to take place from the abomination of desolation. That's when the Antichrist goes into the temple and declares himself God, until the end of the Great Tribulation. That's the kind of stuff that's going to be happening. Next. And this is Jesus letting you know what this is going to be like when you see the abomination of desolation, which Daniel spoke of. Flee to the mountains. Who's on the housetop? Okay, pregnant. Woe to those who are pregnant and nursing. Pray it's not on the Sabbath or in the winter. Next. There will be great tribulation. If someone says, behold, there is a Christ, don't believe them. There will be false Christs, false prophets. Great signs and wonders. Next. I don't think we need this one. Next. Here, I will gather all nations against Jerusalem, the city where we just read that one. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. So when all the world is coming against Jerusalem, he's going to fight as he fought in the day of battle. Well, when was that? There's only one time when it says, and the Lord fought in the day of battle. And it was that fighting. Therefore, no day, for when the Lord listened to bushman, and the Lord fought for Israel. Next. Huh? Therefore, hear the word of the Lord, O scoffers, because you have said, we have made a covenant with death, and Sheol made a pact. Therefore, he says, behold, I'm laying. No, that's not it. Next. Oh, so we made the point? Okay, go next. Yes. It does? Go back. Here? Oh, but this is back in Joshua. Yeah. There was no day like it before, yeah, when the Lord fought for Israel. Okay, next. Go to the next. Is that it? No. Next. Wait. Here. For the Lord will rise up at Mount Perazim. He will be stirred up in the valley. He will be stirred up as in the valley of Gibeon. Gibeon is where he fought against, right, and stopped the moon and the sun. To do his task, his unusual task, and to do his work, his extraordinary work. So what is the Lord's extraordinary work? The same as what he did at the valley of Gibeon. He fought for Israel, and he shortened the sun and the moon, right, the days. Okay, next. This is just Isaiah 28 in its different versions. I like the King James Version best. Here it says, the Lord Almighty has told me of the destruction agreed against the nearly inspired version, NIV. What? The New Living says, for the Lord of heaven's armies has plainly said he is determined to crush the whole world. Here it says, I have heard from the Lord of hosts of decisive destruction. But the King James is the closest to correct. I have heard from the Lord of God of hosts a consumption, even determined upon the whole world. What is the consumption? Next. A consumption is a kala, which is a complete end. So he's going to wipe them out, right? Upon the whole world. Next. This is Daniel says also a consumption, a kala. Next. For the Lord will rise up at Mount Perazim, and he will stir up as in the valley of Gibeon. So whatever he did at Gibeon, he's going to do it again and do his extraordinary work. Next. So what did he do here? He shortened the days, right? He made the sun stand still and the moon stand still. Next. There was no day like it or after it, Joshua says, when the Lord fought for Israel. Next. And look at Revelation. The fourth angel sounded. A third of the sun and a third of the moon and a third of the stars were struck, so that a third of them would be darkened. And day would not shine for a third of it, and the night in the same way. So the days, he says in Matthew, unless those days be shortened, right? And what's he going to do? He's going to do the same thing he did at Gibeon. where the sun is going to stand still or the moon is going to stand still, and the days will be shortened by a third. That's why I think it's going to be, instead of 12 hours daylight, it'll be 8 hours of daylight. That's a third, right? If you will not shine for a third of it. So the days will be shortened, and the nights will be shortened, and that's the same thing that happened at Gibeon. How's he going to do it? The sun will stop or the moon will stop. He's doing this extraordinary work. Okay? I don't know all the details, but that's roughly what's happening here. There's no other time where the Lord fought against, for Israel. Next. Then it will be that he who flies the report of disaster will fall into a pit, and he who climbs out of the pit will be caught in a snare. I mean, it don't matter what happens to you. You get out of one and you're in the other. You jump out of the frying pan, you're in the fire. There's no escaping his doom, his kala, his utter destruction. Okay, next. There will happen that day the Lord will punish the host of heaven on high and the kings on the earth. They will be gathered together like prisoners in the dungeon and will be confined in prison. And after many days they will be punished. Then the moon will be abashed and the sun ashamed. So that's letting you know that the sun's going to be shortened, right? It's not going to shine like it was. For the Lord of hosts will reign on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem. His glory will be before his elders. Next. And it says in Matthew, unless those days have been cut short, no life will have been saved. I think that's what it means when it will be cut short, by cut them off of a third. And it's just like what happened at Gibeon when the Lord fought for Israel. Next. Now, this is Joshua. Now those 5 kings had fled and hidden themselves in the cave at Makkedah. And it was told Joshua, saying, the 5 kings have been found hidden in the cave in Makkedah. So in Joshua, you have kings hiding in caves. Right? Next. In Revelation, then the kings of the earth and the great men and the commanders and the rich and the strong and every slave and free man hid themselves in the caves. So Joshua has kings hiding in caves. Revelation, kings hiding in caves. So Joshua took the whole land according to all that the Lord had spoken to Moses. Joshua gave it to an inheritance to Israel according to their divisions of their tribe. Thus the land had rest from war. Next. This is cool. Okay, this is cool. We can end at any time, but this is kind of cool. 5 more slides. It came up, this is back into Abraham, right? When God makes the covenant with Abraham. And he puts Abraham to sleep. And it came about when the sun had set, it was very dark, behold, there appeared a smoking oven and a flaming torch which passed between the pieces. And when they separated some pieces there. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram and said, to your descendants I have given this land, from the river of Egypt as far as the great river Euphrates. Notice, it says, the Kenite, the Kenizzite, the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Rephaim, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Girgazite, and the Jebusite. 10 groups are going to be wiped out. Okay, next. When the Lord so he says that I'm going to give you this land, Abram, and all those 10 groups that are there are all going to be wiped out. Yes? You know, in Deuteronomy, it says, when the Lord your God brings you into the land, now he's talking to Moses here. When the Lord your God brings you into the land where you are entering to possess it and clears away many nations before you, the Hittites, the Girgazites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and stronger than you. Earlier when he made the offer to Abraham, the deal to Abraham, he said, I'm going to wipe out these 10 nations. But once they actually are about to do it, there's only 7 nations to wipe out. There were 10, now there's 3. Got it? Next. In Daniel, it talks about the 10 horns. The 10 horns are the 10 kings, right? I remember when I was a kid, we always talked about the revived Roman Empire. There's going to be 10 nations that come together. And when the EU, when the European Union first got together, there were 9 of them. And then, you know, we'd go to the church and they'd be talking about France is about to join the EU. You know, oh my goodness. Like, well, why am I going to school tomorrow, Dad? You know. But I mean, it was big talk, you know, and you get the Jack Van Impe records and play them, and okay, but it's all because of this. There's 10 horns, right, that are coming out of that final beast, the revived Roman Empire, and it says the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received the kingdom, but they will receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. These have one purpose, and they give their power and authority to the beast. The beast is the Antichrist, and he's going to have 10 kings that he's ruling over. Next. As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings will arise, and another will arise after them, and he will be different from the previous ones, and he will subdue 3 kings. So God told Abraham, you're going to wipe out, you're going to have 10 kings, and then later it's only 7 kings got wiped, 7 kings left. And here in the future, there are going to be 10 kings, but 3 of them do get wiped out, and then there's only 7 kings. So you both times you have the 10 minus 3, 10 minus 3. Okay? Next. And this is the last slide. And the only point that this slide is going to make is, it says, Joshua said he was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me to spy out the land. Nevertheless, my brother who went up with me made the heart of the people melt with fear. So Moses swore in that day, surely the land on which your foot is trodden inheritance, because now behold, the Lord has let me live just as he spoke these 45 years. So what it's saying here, from the time the Lord spoke to Moses, when Israel walked with us, now behold, I made. So Joshua was 85 when all this happened. That was the point. Was there another point? There was a 40 years, yes, because he was 45, or he was 40, and now he's 85. Okay, I don't know what the point is. He's 85. Drive safely.